As you may already know, my name's Clare Baker and I'm a former clutterholic and borderline hoarder. I successfully cleared all my clutter over 20 years ago without the need for an expensive home visit. And I've been helping people around the world do exactly the same ever since, so that they too can know what it's like to live a completely clutter-free life forever. One of my missions is to dispel a lot of decluttering myths that are perpetuated by most of the decluttering TV programs, books, and experts by explaining exactly why they are myths. So, today, I want to explain the myth that you should keep everything in your clutter because you can or want to use it. Now, you almost certainly have most of your clutter because you believe this myth. This is probably the biggest myth we tell ourselves when we struggle with clutter, and it's the myth that will keep you trapped in your clutter keeping cycle. You tell yourself that you can or will use the things in your clutter, so you keep them, but you can't use them because you don't have space to use them because of the clutter. Consequently, you don't let go of anything in your clutter, and you just move your clutter from corner to corner, room to room, waiting until you magically have space to use the things in your clutter without having to actually make any decisions and let go of anything. Even if you put things into a self-storage unit and you give yourself the space to use things in your home, even though that's only temporary because the clutter grows back, you still don't use the things in your clutter despite having the space to use them. Let's put this in perspective by asking one simple question. How much of your clutter have you actually used more than 3 times in the last 5 years? You thought you would, but you didn't. With hindsight, you didn't really need to keep it. There are 7 reasons why this myth is a myth. So the first reason is time. Absolutely, you can theoretically use everything in your clutter if you have an infinite amount of time to use it all. However, you haven't been able to make time to use it so far, so what makes you believe that you'll be able to make time to use it in the future? You need to limit the amount of time you consider when making decisions about a realistic amount of time, what we call the near future. In other words, between now and a year after you complete your clutter clearing journey. That way you'll break your habit of focusing on the practical value of things rather than the instant and future value. You learn about the 12 values to consider on step 3 of your journey. The second reason this myth is a myth is because of clutter magnets. When will you realistically use the things that you can or want to use? You'll have to store them in the time that you're waiting to use them. Unless you're prepared to pay for storage outside your home, they'll be stored on the organisation area of your conveyor belt, and they'll become clutter precisely because they're not being used. When things become clutter, they can become clutter magnets and attract more clutter, and so the clutter starts to grow. The third reason this myth is a myth relates to usage. So, how long will things that you can use realistically take you to use? So, for example, if you know that it realistically takes you a month to use a box of washing powder and you've bought 3 boxes because they were on special offer, then yes, technically, you can use that washing powder. However, you're going to have to store 2 boxes that are not being used for up to 3 months before they get used and actually come off your conveyor belt. Another example, if you know that you've had clothes that are 2 sizes too small for a year and you haven't lost the weight to be able to wear them, realistically, you're not going to wear those clothes in your near future. Let them go now, in the present. You can buy new clothes when you need them. Fascinating fact, research has shown that when people let go of their thin and fat clothes, the acceptance that's required to do that means they actually start to lose the weight without even trying. The fourth reason this myth is a myth is because it's not just about you. You are not the only person who can use and appreciate the things in your clutter. You and you alone are not responsible for using the things you accumulated in your past. There are other people who can use those things now. There are other people who will appreciate those things now. There are other people who need those things now. When you let them go, you help other people and bring joy to others who are less fortunate than you. The fifth reason this myth is a myth is because of accumulation. You will only realistically be able to use everything in your clutter and clear your clutter if you stop accumulating more things at the accumulation end of your conveyor belt. However, People who struggle with clutter are constantly accumulating more things at the accumulation end of their conveyor belt, precisely because they tell themselves that they can use it or that it will come in useful. Consequently, even if you did use everything in your clutter, which you won't, it would be replaced as quickly as it's used by the accumulation of new things. And as a result, you will never reduce the amount of clutter that you have in your home. The sixth reason this myth is a myth is because of your clutter keeping cycle. Keeping things because you believe you can use them because you do use that thing, or you plan to use it when you're clutter-free, will just keep you trapped in your clutter keeping cycle. You tell yourself you'll use it, you'll do X, Y, Z with it when you've cleared your clutter. So you keep that item in your clutter. As a result, you keep everything for when you've cleared your clutter. Yet because you haven't let go of anything, you never actually clear your clutter. The final reason this myth is a myth relates to you living your best life. When you accumulated the things in your clutter, you thought they were part of your vision for your best life at the time. However, that time and that old vision of your best life is now in the past. If you tell yourself you're keeping everything because you can use it, if you're not focusing on whether you want or need to use it to help you live your best life in the present, just because you can use everything doesn't mean you have to use everything, or that everything is part of your best life in the present and future. So which is more important to you right now? Keeping those things that you might use at some point in the future, if you ever have time, yet which you probably won't because you'll never have enough time or the space to use them because of your clutter and your accumulation? Or would you prefer to live your best life in the present and future? You always have a choice with your clutter, even if you don't like the choices that you have. You can clear your clutter fast or you can clear your clutter forever, but you can't clear your clutter forever fast. If you're ready to get the help and support you need to clear your clutter forever, click on the link with this video and find out how I can help you.